Okay, so choosing the microphone for your vocalist is probably the most important thing. Now, there's a massive range of microphones out there to choose, and there are some very classic ones, such as the Shure SM58. You can use SM57. There's also microphones like the AKG C414 or the AKG C12. Um, there's the Electro Voice RE20, and then there's things like the Neumann range, so the Neumann U87, the Neumann U67, there's the Neumann U47. I mean, the list just really goes on and on. Telefunken 251 or the Sony C8 800 G-Pack are all, a number of microphones that are used for recording. So I guess the three differences between them are whether they are a dynamic mic, such as the SM58, or whether you're using a condenser mic like the AKG C414, and also a condenser, but also maybe a tube mic. So it's a condenser, but it has a tube inside it. Another option is also using ribbon mics. Now, these different mics have different characters. So, say for example, the Shure SM58, which is a dynamic mic, it's going to have the sound of it. It's not going to have as much top end or brightness as, say, something like a condenser mic, which is going to be, have a lot more of that basically top end and kind of maybe more fuller bodied. But in saying that, the SM58 is a classic mic and has been used for, a lot of recordings. With the ribbon mic, you're looking at something that is quite warm in the top end and actually quite natural sounding. But often, sometimes these mics can be a little bit sibilant, like for example, the Coles 4038 is a mic that can be used on vocals. But they do have a very particular kind of sound, so it's what you really need to do is experiment with the microphones and place a few up and test them out on the vocalist, because every single vocalist will suit a different mic, and then sometimes you'll find that different songs actually suit a different mic as well. So what I've got up here is two of my favorite microphones I like to use for vocals. This one is the Sony C800 G-Pack, and this one is the Sound Deluxe 251. Now this one is actually a replica or a copy of the Telefunken 251, which is one of the classic um, vocal microphones of all time. And I think it sounds pretty good, pretty close to it actually. Um, the reason why I like it is it has that kind of classic Neumann sound where it's got very detailed kind of mid-range. It's got nice low end, and it just really suits a lot of voices I've found. And the Sony C800 G-Pack is the reason why I like this mic is it's got really beautiful, beautiful top end. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much top end on vocalists, maybe a little bit too sibilant and a little bit searing in the top end. So that's why I like to stick up the two mics, because it will become obvious if this microphone is too bright for the vocalist. It also has really, really nice, warm, low end character as well. And I guess what I'm trying to get out of a microphone is something I can put in the mix and really not do hardly any well, basically, hopefully no EQ to it. If you can put a microphone up and it sounds great with any EQ, it's doing the job, right? And I usually find I can get that from the Sony or the Sound Deluxe. Okay, so what we've got here is a pretty special mic actually. It's a Telefunken U47. Now this is one of the classic vocal microphones used of all time. Both Neumann and Telefunken both made this microphone, and this is a reissue of that original microphone, and this is the Telefunken version. So for memory, these things, when this one was bought, it was about $6,000, but if you're looking at getting an original, you're looking at about upwards of $15,000 or so. Now it's a tube mic, And I kind of briefly mentioned before the difference between a condenser and a condenser with a tube. Now, well, basically what you could say is solid state and a tube mic. The difference between them is obviously the tube has a tube in it, and the sound is really more of a kind of a warmer sort of tone um, to the solid state. Usually a little bit more maybe presence in like the upper mids, and some people could say harsh, but I wouldn't really. I don't know. It's kind of a hard one to describe. For example, a classic microphone is the Neumann U87, and there is a that's the solid state version, and the tube version is the Neumann U67. Um, and just because it's tube doesn't mean that the 67 is better. I actually prefer recording vocals with a Neumann U87, the solid state one, because I like the kind of the detail it has, and I find sometimes that the tube microphone can often be a little bit sort of warm or often a little bit boomy for vocalists.